Hello from Sin City, Las Vegas, and happy WrestleMania week. TJPW is in town, but before that show happens, the gang had a very successful Vancouver debut. We'll talk all about that Canada tour, discuss how Haru became International Princess #1 contender, chat the upcoming Inspiration show, and welcome back Hikari Noa to pro wrestling. All that and more coming up on the Tokyo Joshi Pod. Stay tuned. Hello to all you big children out there. Konnichiwa and welcome to the Tokyo Joshi Pod, your weekly dose of everything TJPW. I'm your host Andy Zyke, and a happy WrestleMania week to all of you. It is absolutely surreal to be back here in Las Vegas. It doesn't feel like I was here a whole year ago. I can remember that trip last year so vividly still. Today is Wednesday. It is very late at night as I am recording this in my hotel room, so please bear with me if the audio sounds a little bit different, if I'm trying to keep my voice a little bit lower because it is pushing midnight. It's technically Thursday now, but Wednesday, heck of a great start to WrestleMania week. It was only just the beginning for everything that I have going on. I'm including this date here, Wednesday, just as context for you all so you'll know kind of what shows haven't happened yet by the time that this show hits all of your podcast feeds. The very big one is the TJPW show that is happening tomorrow, or I guess technically later today now for myself. So we won't be able to chat about that TJPW Live in Las Vegas show on today's podcast episode, but rest assured we will be covering that in more detail on next week's show, and I will also have a instant reaction on the social feeds. So if you're looking for something a little bit sooner, feel free to go over to really any of our social channels. I'm going to have something up on there. We might even have a couple of fun cameos in there too, so keep your eyes peeled there. Later this week, I will also be attending some other Joshi shows like Marvelous and Stardom and Spark Joshi, a few other indies as well. Earlier today on Wednesday, I stopped by Pandemonium Pro Wrestling, and what a heck of a show that was. We'll chat a little bit more about that later on. I actually enjoyed my time there so much that I stuck around kind of impromptu for the Unapologetic Pro Wrestling show as well. Long story, we may or may not cover that on the show. But before we jump into things today, I do have one big announcement. I am incredibly excited to announce that a new interview is coming your way with the current Queen of Asia champion, Alexis Lee. I had the pleasure of talking with Alexis at Pandemonium today, and we're going to be recording a brief little interview, just a couple of questions, but really excited to be able to chat with Alexis and have that opportunity. Really looking forward to bringing you all that interview. Likely in the next week or two, I would say. We're going to chat a lot about her time in Singapore, of course, her time in Tokyo Joshi as well. Certainly a future episode that you do not want to miss. Thank you all so much for spending some time again with me today. I do hope to see some of you in Vegas this week, and who knows, maybe by the time you're listening to this, we've already crossed paths. I do have Tokyo Joshi Pod stickers, so please don't be shy. Come on over, say hello. I'm more than happy to give you a Tokyo Joshi Pod sticker. So let's dive into some news from the last week. And again, bear with me about the audio here if it is a little bit different. It's only going to be while I'm here in Las Vegas. Like I say, it's also midnight, so I might be jumping around and a little bit more scatterbrained than normal, so apologies in advance, but hopefully you can kind of hunker down with me and truck through it here. We'll get through it together. I do want to start with some really big news that we received. TJPW has made a slew of announcements for upcoming events. Summer Sun Princess 2-6 has been announced, the 13th annual Tokyo Princess Cup has been announced, and Wrestle Princess 7 has been announced. We'll start with Summer Sun Princess. Summer Sun Princess this year will fall on Saturday, July 18th. It will be taking place in Corcoran Hall. Typically, they run Oda City or Oda Ward General Gymnasium for Summer Sun Princess, so it is a little bit interesting that it will be at Corcoran Hall this year, but of course we know TJPW just ran the Ryogoku Kokugikan for Grand Princess, so perhaps they just have to be a little bit more money conscious as it comes to some of these larger shows. But the last time that Summer Sun Princess was at Korakuen Hall was actually back in 2024, which coincides with the last time TJPW ran the Ryogoku Koku Gikan. So maybe there's something to that theory, maybe not. Who knows? The TJPW has also announced the 13th annual Tokyo Princess Cup. There are 6 dates this year for the Tokyo Princess Cup, starting on July 20th, going through August 23rd. And on August 23rd, those finals will take place at Korakuen Hall. And then finally, Wrestle Princess 7 scheduled this year for Saturday, October 3rd from the Oda City General Gymnasium, same venue that this was held last year. This one typically bops around to some smaller venues from time to time, so it's nice to see that Wrestle Princess will continue to take place at the Oda City General Gymnasium a little bit later in the calendar year this year, that first weekend of October, but that's not uncommon for TJPW. Last year they ran this show in September. They mostly in the past have ran this show in September, but every once in a while it does bleed into October, so a little bit later on the calendar this year. But as if we don't already have so much to look forward to, we are now looking really all the way out into the fall at this point with these major shows. If Grand Princess is anything to go by, I am really excited to see who might show up at these shows, the types of matches we will get. I think we're in store for some really good stuff. And it's like we talked about a few weeks ago on our post show for Grand Princess. We have no idea who is even a front runner for the Tokyo Princess Cup at this point. Perhaps it's going to be Arisu Endo, Yuki Aino. I think we talked Rika Tatsumi, Yuki Kamifuku. Really, truly, we have a wide open playbook. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the competitors that get announced for that tournament and kind of get a clearer picture as we get closer into July. In some other really big news, Hikari Noa has announced her return to pro wrestling. Now, Hikari Noa will not be returning to TJPW, at least not that we know of yet. It has not been announced. I think it is highly unlikely, given how that split took place a few years ago. I think it's highly unlikely that we will see Hikari Noa in TJPW, but you never know. Never say never. Maybe time heals all wounds. But Hikari Noa was announced to make her pro wrestling debut at the upcoming Unagi Sayaka Produce Show on June 21st, which will take place at Korakuen Hall. Unagi gave a brief press conference for this event announcing the return of Hikari Noa. Hikari was, of course, there with her during this press conference, or a press release, maybe on a video press release. Unagi basically said that she had always kind of wanted to keep in touch with Hikari and want to kind of find a way to bring her back into pro wrestling. And eventually what she decided to do was go visit Hikari at her new day job. She was working at a spa, and Unagi visited her, and they ended up sharing a meal together. And Unagi found the courage to ask her to come back at one of these produce shows. And as a wise man once told me, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So good on Unagi for getting the courage to have this conversation with Hikari. Good on Hikari for feeling comfortable and ready to return. I think a lot of fans are very excited about this news. I'm looking forward to seeing this. I don't believe that they announced the match construction, if these two are teaming or facing each other or anything like that. I don't think we know that just yet, but regardless, this is wonderful news. It's going to be great to see Hikari Noa once again wrestling, full stop, just wrestling. And these Unagi Sayaka Produce shows are always pretty solid shows. So looking forward to this one. We'll, of course, talk about this as we get towards the end of June 21st. We also have a few announcements for the upcoming TJPW and Eve collaboration that will be taking place on Saturday, April 25th from London. We already know that Miyu Yamashita has a singles contest against Alice Inc., and that Shoko Nakajima has a singles contest against Holly Barlow. We now know that Hyper Misao will have a singles match of her own against Rio. Now, this is not the Rio from AEW. This is Rio, who wrestles in Eve quite often. Very interesting wrestler. I saw her wrestle on that Woman Behaving Badly show that we talked about with Yamashita and Jamie Hayter on it. And then, of course, the Wrestle Queendom later that weekend. She's very talented. She's a little bit more of like a serious wrestler compared to a Hyper Misao, but should be an interesting matchup. And then a reminder, Yuki Aino is also scheduled for that Eve show. We don't know her match yet. We also don't know her match yet for the SAJ collab, which is the following day on Sunday the 26th. So for some reason, these two companies seem to be releasing the match announcements for the TJPW women somewhat similarly. Miyu and Shoko, followed by Misao, with Aino still pending. But we're coming up. We're only about 9 or 10 days away now, as the time of this recording, from these two European shows. So I'm sure we will get Aino's match in short order here in the coming days. And then the final bit of news that I want to touch on, we have a few match announcements for our next Corcoran Hall show, Yes Wonderland 2-6, which will take place on Monday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. It has been made official that Haru Kazushiro's International Princess Title Challenge will be taking place at this Yes Wonderland show. She, of course, will face off against whoever wins the upcoming International Princess match between Suzume and Sakura Hattori here in Las Vegas. By the time you are listening to this, you will know the result of that match. I'm banking on it being Suzume, but who knows? Maybe I've just jinxed myself here. But that will be taking place on this Yes Wonderland show. This is going to be Haru Kazushiro's first singles title challenge. There's also been a singles match announced between Toga and Ryu Mizunami, Aniki. So Aniki will be coming back into TJPW really in short order. We last saw her back in February at the Corcoran Hall show. And then the third match that has been announced is a 6-woman tag team match. And this is going to be a doozy of a match. On one side of the ring, we will see Mizuki team with Uda Takami and Mei Suruga. Mei Suruga making her return to TJPW here. Mei Suruga is also going to be on this weekend's Inspiration show as well, but certainly a crazy 3-person team here between Mizuki, Uda, and Mei Suruga. My goodness. Those three are going to take on the equally crazy team of the Love Triangle, Yuki Aino, Raku, and Pam Harajuku. This is like the most unhinged match I think I've seen in recent memory from TJPW, but hey, I am looking forward to this more than probably anything else we're going to see on this Yes Wonderland show. So the Yes Wonderland card is coming together quite nicely. We'll have to wait and see if we will get a Princess of Princess title matchup here or a Princess Tag Team title matchup here. Who knows? But so far, so good with a couple of guest players here in Aniki and Mei Suruga. And then, of course, this International Princess title matchup as well. Speaking of Haru Kazushiro becoming that number one contender, why don't we talk about the show where she qualified for that number one contendership? That would be PokaPoka Spring Pro Wrestling in Ueno, also known as Warm and Cozy Spring Pro Wrestling in Ueno. This one went down on Wednesday, April 4th from Ueno Park Outdoor Stage in Tokyo. This was a video-on-demand show. Lasted about 2 hours. This was the final show that we were not seeing Arisu Endo because she was out due to injury. She did make her return at the Gaisen Sakura Pro Wrestling show. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but she was the only competitor absent here from this PokaPoka show. The attendance for this event, 219 people, and the spectators here really, really into this show. They really knew their Up Girls stuff as well. They were chanting. They were really, really invested. The last time TJPW ran Ueno Park Outdoor Stage was last year in April. They tend to run these outdoor stages a few times a year, usually around the same time of year. The last time, April 2025, they drew a crowd of 136, so a significant increase here to reach 219 fans at this show on the 8th. We open up with Rise Shirai giving the opening remarks and the house rules, and then the Up Girls come out and they sang Babyface. Haven't heard Babyface in a minute, so maybe this one's going to be coming back into the song rotation for us. The opening match was a singles contest. Yuki Kamifuku took on Shion Kanzaki. Kami started this one out just really trying to poke Shion in the eyes. That was like a prolonged bit that they were going for. She tried it like 5 different ways before she just tripped Shion up and then just gouged her eyes with her thumbs instead. Very violent. Shion felt like she was fighting from underneath basically this entire match. Any offense she got in felt a little bit more desperate against the bigger, the more senior bully that was Kamifuku. That size difference kind of was the determining factor in this one. Kamiyu was able to absorb basically everything that Shion was throwing at her. Kamiyu does pick up a victory here with a brainbuster in 6 minutes and 48 seconds. I have to say, I kind of like that she doesn't need to use the famouser, like her established finisher, against an opponent who is so much more junior than she is. It's nice that Kamifuku can win the match with, I don't want to say a basic move, because the brainbuster is a pretty powerful move, but like a non-finishing move, she's able to pick up that win against someone so junior to her. I just think that's a nice touch. Up next, we had another singles contest. Wakana Uehara took on Kira Summer. During her entrance, Wakana was the first to head up into the crowd during this matchup, which is pretty notorious of a thing that happens here at these outdoor venues. This one was a bit more 50-50 than you might imagine. They kind of traded going back and forth, being on the offensive. I thought Kira really put a lot into this one. You could see her like visibly frustrated at times, like thinking she had won the match, thinking she had put Wakana away, but Wakana would kick out or, jump right back up. And Wakana just kept like digging deep and just fighting and fighting and fighting. And that frustration really was made apparent on Kira's face. Wakana eventually locks in the banana pillow, but Kira is able to reach the ropes. She's able to wrestle it on for a second time, though, and Kira does tap the second time in 9 minutes and 2 seconds. Our next contest was a tag team match. Suzume and Ren Kanatsu teamed up to take on Sakura, Hattori, and Toga in our first International Princess title preview tag. Sakura and Suzume start us out, and Sakura wrestling a little bit more at a Kaya pace is what I would say. She had a lot of quick takeovers, a lot of kicks. I think she'll kind of have to go this pace to keep up in the title match against Suzume. That has to be the strategy for her. Ren tags in and kind of takes a beating from both Sakura and Toga for a prolonged stretch. Suzume and Sakura square off again, and I do have to say, watching this matchup, I was pleasantly surprised at their chemistry, at the pace that the two of them were holding. Like I say, if Sakura can just adopt this for this matchup, maybe even adopt this pace going forward, I think that would really bring her new character together, and she would kind of find that one missing piece that we have spoken quite a bit about when she is just moving a little bit more methodical in the ring. I think quickening up the pace can really bring this character together for her. Ren heads back in for the second time, misses an Aries Comet. Sakura hits her with the Rakatecho flying forearm, but Suzume breaks up that pinfall. Suzume and Toga end up brawling to the outside, leading Sakura to submit Ren with the Shinden Fudorio reverse front choke in 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Brief little stare down afterwards between Sakura and Suzume, Sakura pointing at Suzume's International Princess title. We did get some backstage comments. Sakura says that the preparations are complete and to now watch the finishing touches. She speaks very verbose. I think that's a part of the character, is to find these like very wordy ways of kind of poetically phrasing certain things. She did pick up a win here though, so she's not incorrect in what she's saying. Suzume, on the other hand, said that she was frustrated with the loss and admits that Sakura has shown her a few new things in her arsenal. She says that she must focus on Sakura moving forward, but she is motivated to defeat her, knowing that another challenger is already decided. Our next contest, yet another singles match on this show. Miyu Watanabe took on Chika Nanase. When Chika came out, she had like multiple bruises on her shoulder and her arm. Like where the heck did those come from? I have to imagine she's going to be getting a few more of those after this one. This was a case of two muscular women doing muscular things. Lots of headlocks, powering out of holds, dragging each other around. As you can imagine, this was mostly Miyu's match to lose, although Chika didn't look too bad. She held her own pretty well, even locked in the Inari Tori at one point, which was pretty impressive. Miyu powered out of it, briefly locks in the Canadian backbreaker, executes a giant swing, and then wins with a shoulder tackle in 9 minutes and 26 seconds. Strange ending to the match aside, I feel like Chica could learn a thing or two from Miyu. They might be an interesting tag team. Obviously, Chica's persona is very, very different from what Watanabe's is, but I could get behind Chica adopting some of Miyu's moves. I think that'd be cool for her to kind of diversify her moveset a little bit more. The semifinal for this one was that 5-way number 1 contenders match for the International Princess title. Shino Suzuki versus Himawari versus Uda Takami versus Mifu Ishida versus Haru Kazushiro. We start off with a chain headlock that is broken up by Shino, and then a chain German suplex attempt that was also broken up by Shino. They did a number of these like group style maneuvers as everyone was kind of picking their spots, trying to figure out how to best get the advantage. 2 competitors would square off and hit some moves, trying to get a pin, like Shino's tour. We got Shino giving us a tour. We saw a lot of Himawari's hair whips. Mifu at one point hit a double X Factor, which was really cool. But then the rest of the 5, the rest of the remaining competitors would somehow appear in the ring and kind of break up that pinfall. Everyone got in a pretty decent spotlight amongst all 5. They tried to keep it as even-keeled as possible. At the end, it eventually came down to Haru and Shino in the ring, with Haru hitting her Fisherman's Suplex for the win in 12 minutes and 44 seconds. This one was a little bit more chaotic and like every woman for themselves energy than I thought. I assumed we might get more of like a through line between Himawari and Haru after that, like quote unquote, that preview tag for this that we had at Yamashita's homecoming show where Himawari pinned Haru, but that didn't really play a factor at the end of the day here. We do have some backstage comments from Haru. She says that she looks forward to wrestling full time now that she has graduated from high school, and by winning this matchup today, she has accomplished a goal of challenging for a singles title. So really looking forward to that challenge from Haru. Our main event of this show was a wacky 10-woman tag team matchup in celebration of Spring Sports Day. On one side of the ring, we saw Yuki Arai, Miyu Yamashita, Mizuki, Rika Tatsumi, and Mihiro Kiryu team together. They are the red team. They took on the white team, Raku, Palm Harajuku, Shoko Nakajima, Hyper Misao, and Yuki Ueno. The reason this matchup was so wacky is that it was basically a variety of games, and whoever won the game, a point would be given to the winning team, and whoever had the most points gets an advantage going into the quote-unquote the final matchup. The first game they played was like a ball catch game. They had 5 minutes to perform this game, to compete in this game. Mizuki and Hyper Misao wore like laundry hampers on their back, and Rika and Raku had to throw balls into their team's baskets. The crazy part of this was that Mizuki and Misao also had to wrestle during this matchup. So like the balls were thrown into the baskets, right? And then the balls just started immediately flying like all over the ring. Apparently it was also tag team rules because at one point Raku and Rika tag in and they switch places. So they put the hampers on. It was madness. Raku hits an Oyasumi Express and starts pulling the balls out of Rika's hamper. That upsets Rika, of course, who chokes her in response, typical Rika. At one point, Mizuki is placed completely inside of her hamper. I don't know how she fit in there. Misao misses her I Am a Hero dive. Mizuki misses a double foot stomp. All the rules are out the window at this point. All 4 of them are in there just like spamming balls into their team's hamper and tossing them at one another. This comes down to a victory for Raku and Hyper Misao, the white team. Rika and Mizuki are very sore losers, though. They place the hampers over Raku and Misao's head, and they attack them, and then it becomes pandemonium as, like, the benches clear from both sides, and Kiso, our referee for this one, just decides to leave the ring. He doesn't want anything else to do with this one. So the white team up 1-0, heading into our second game, which was a 3-legged race, I guess, but it was like wrestling. So 2 competitors had their legs tied together. They then had to wrestle a match against another set of competitors. On one side, Shoko Nakajima and Yuki Aino, they took on Miyu Yamashita and Mihiro Kiryu. I mean, this too, also pretty wacky. They played the Can Can song during this while they were wrestling, which was like incredible. This was obviously no like 5-star Tokyo Dome main event or anything, but it did have an apology in the middle of it. And honestly, the ladies did the best they could with their legs tied together. This is like peak physical comedy for a company that is so good at doing physical comedy like this. Mihiro and Miyu, the red team, eventually get the win with a backslide pin, and they even up the score at 1 apiece. Our third game was a baton relay, and this actually started out with a tug of war, which was won by the red team, which gave them a head start in this relay. Shoko Nakajima, who was on the losing team, the white team, basically she just had to spin around a baseball bat while Rika began the relay right away. So like a bit of a handicap or a head start advantage. The first stop on this baton relay was a bread eating contest. I wonder if Ren baked the bread maybe. There were basically 2 small pieces of bread hung from a ladder, and Shoko and Rika needed to get the bread down using only their mouths. Rika was the first one to pull it off of the string, so she was able to proceed to the second leg of this, which was a sack race. So Yamashita and Misao were the 2 ready to complete the sack race part of this relay. Yamashita basically hustled across the venue while Misao was just still waiting for Shoko to get the bread from the first task. Toga did eventually help out Shoko just to keep the kind of the speed of this going. The third leg here was a scavenger hunt. Mizuki and Yuki Aino were the 2 competitors here. Mizuki couldn't begin this, though, even though Yamashita handed her the baton so early on, because Aino was literally holding her back while Shoko and Misao caught up. They then each had to find an item from an audience member. They both were about neck and neck at this point, and they did both find their mystery item that they had to find from an audience member. That led us to our next leg of this, which was a ping pong ball carrying competition. Raku and Mihiro Kiryu executed this leg. Both of these 2 basically had a ping pong ball and a spoon, and they had to walk down some stairs without losing the ping pong ball. At this point, both teams were even. Misao, though, quickly turns that on its head. She gets involved by trucking Mihiro with the hypermobile, so that side quest lives on. I didn't even know the hypermobile was present in this Ueno arena today, but somehow or other, it found its way to Mihiro just like a magnet. The final portion of this crazy baton relay was a blindfold race. Pam Harajuku and Yuki Urai, the final 2 competitors for their respective teams. Pam did have a brief head start because of the hypermobile incident, but it hardly mattered because all of the women were in there like interfering, confusing the 2 that were blindfolded. Pam does cross the finish line first, allowing the white team to win the game. So what does that mean? Well, that means we have one final match of the evening, and it would see Yuki Urai and Pam Harajuku, the final 2 competitors of this crazy baton relay. And because Pam's team won, the white team, they have an advantage going into this singles matchup. So Pam was able to win this singles matchup with only a 1-count fall, while Urai needed to get a 2-count fall. They both immediately tried for a number of pinfalls. The white team broke up a pin to save Pam. Everyone got in the ring at one point, and they played this like very coordinated game of chicken is like the best way I could describe it. Arai's team ends up, that tower kind of crumbles down during that chicken game. Pam then blindfolds Arai. Arai manages somehow to hit a big boot while blindfolded, takes that blindfold off, and then wins, puts an end to this craziness with the Scorpion Lock. In the most TJPW fashion, in this final singles match with a 1-count fall, a 2-count fall, the rules just don't matter in the end, and Arai wins this by submission. Arai does get on the microphone at the end of this, thanks everyone for coming on a weekday, and said everyone in TJPW will do their best as we move into the new season. A fun show overall. It was newsworthy, obviously, for that 5-way number 1 contenders matchup. The outdoor shows are always a lot of fun, like this crazy spring sports day match, if you want to call it that. It is peak TJPW at its finest. If you really enjoy the comedy and the spirit and the fun that TJPW is all about, you will certainly enjoy this main event for sure, but likely this entire event. Later that weekend on Saturday, April 11th, Gaisen Sakura Pro Wrestling took place outdoors within the Gaisen Sakura Street area of Shinjo Village in Okayama. This is video on demand. As of my recording, this is still not released. I believe it's set to release on Thursday the 16th, so we'll talk about this in detail in a future show, but I do just want to briefly run through at least the TJPW results for this, because there were some Basara matches as well, but we'll talk about those on next week's show. On the TJPW side, we had a singles contest between Kira Summer and Rika Tatsumi. Rika picked up the victory with the twist of fate in 8 minutes and 25 seconds. We had a tag team contest. Hyper Misao and Mihiro Kiryu teamed together to take on Chika Nanase and Arisu Endo. Misao picked up the win for her team, pinning Chika after her I Am a Hero dive in 9 minutes and 39 seconds. And then the final matchup on the TJPW side, a 6-woman tag. Aja Kong teamed up with Mizuki and Mifu Ishida to take on the Toju Tokusatsu Club, Haru Kazushiro, Shoko Nakajima, and Yuki Aino. Aino was able to get the victory for her team here, pinning Mifu with the Venus DDT in 15 minutes and 22 seconds. The images coming out of that show looked like a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to catching up on it and watching it. Like I say, we'll cover that one in more depth next weekend. The reason that this show only had 3 TJPW matches on it is because outside of the 11 talents that were on that show, the remaining 13 flew over to Canada for TJPW's Vancouver premiere. Vancouver premiere was a 2-day affair, the first day taking place on Saturday, April 11th from the Great Canadian Hastings Racecourse and Casino. These were live on Wrestle Universe, believe it or not, and this first show was actually quite short. It was only about an hour and 45 minutes. In a huge accomplishment for their debut in the country, TJPW sold out Vancouver premiere day 1 with 400 fans in attendance. This opened up with Sayuri Namba giving some brief opening remarks which were not broadcast live. There was a little bit of technical issues at the beginning of this stream. The Up girls did come out to sing Upper Kick, but we didn't hear too much of it given some of the... they kept cutting to the loading screen from time to time. They must have had a little bit of signal disruption. The first matchup, a singles contest, Yuki Kamifuku took on Shino Suzuki. The stream started to settle out more as this one started. Early on, exactly the match that you'd expect here on paper. Kamiyu bullying Shino, who was kind of playing her ultimate underdog role very well. Kamiyu was eye-poking, hitting big boots, choking Shino in the corner with her boot. Shino did give us a tour of Vancouver. She also escaped a famouser attempt. She couldn't quite hit her German suplex, though, so she transitioned that into a sleeper hold, hit a pretty powerful scoop slam. Shino was really firing up in a way that I haven't seen from her since, the level trial-up match against Yamashita that she had a number of months ago. All that being said, though, Kamiyu eventually stopped playing games here. She hits a brainbuster and then the famouser for the win in 8 minutes and 14 seconds. Afterwards, Kamiyu is dragging Shino out of the venue by her hair, but she does eventually transition into just helping her walk out. Our next contest was a singles matchup between Uda Takami and Amira. Amira, Pacific Northwest, independent talent, indie wrestler. She has wrestled in TJPW before on their Seattle show and their LA shows. Uda was the first to get some streamers here on this show. This is also Uta's first singles matchup with an overseas wrestler. Truthfully, Amira is not that much taller than Uta, but she did seem to be a bit more bulkier. The early parts of this match saw Amira easily outpower Uta. Amira locked in a nice looking bow and arrow submission, and she was really targeting Uta's back for most of this. Uta out of nowhere got a roll up in. She then tried to go for the koala clutch, but Amira was able to toss her off pretty easily. Uta tried to claw her way back a little bit. She had a flurry of drop kicks. She got another koala clutch locked in, but Amira rammed her into the corner, hit a really great cannonball that just destroyed Uta. And then Amira hit what she calls the Squirrel's Strongest Slam in 6 minutes and 52 seconds for the win. The next matchup was a tag team match. Rakupam took on Sakura Hattori and Toga. Sakura, handful of streamers for her. Rakupam, though, an incredible amount of streamers. Raku lulls Toga to sleep at the beginning of this, but Sakura isn't having that. She shakes her awake. Raku, though, manages to get both of them down and out, hits the Oyasumi Express. A lot of this match was Sakura and Toga hitting very hard against Raku and Palm. Rakupam, though, would stay in it using more of their craftiness that they are known for. Sakura goes for her Shinden Fudorio submission, but Palm just screams, which made Sakura release it. I thought that was a pretty effective strategy from Palm. Palm rolls her into a 2 count. Then Sakura used her Kicho Kagome. That's what she calls this unique roll-up maneuver, her roll-up pin that she has. And that Kicho Kagome gets her the win in 9 minutes and 44 seconds. Surprisingly, not too many Rakupam shenanigans in this one. Next up, a singles contest. Suzume took on local Canadian talent Alexia Nicole. This was a non-title matchup. Suzume as well got a handful of streamers here for her entrance. Honestly, this match was great. I ended up not writing as many play-by-play notes, and I just kind of found myself watching it. I just kind of got sucked into it as how good it was. These two really complemented each other well. This was my first time seeing Alexia, but she was able to match Suzume's speed really, really well. They had a lot of answers for each other's moves and their counters and their roll-ups, reversals. Suzume, though, does pick up the victory here with the ring a bell in 7 minutes and 11 seconds. The semifinal contest of day 1 was another tag matchup. Miyu Yamashita teamed up with Himawari to take on Eliza Hall and Nicole Matthews, 2 local Canadian wrestlers, both of who have wrestled for TJPW before on their Seattle show. Himawari and Yamashita got a few streamers here. Yamashita and Nicole start us off in a preview of a singles contest that was on day 2 of this tour. They keep it fairly even, which is, I guess, to be expected before they square off the next day. Himawari briefly gets the upper hand on Liza with her quickness, hitting a few hair whips, but the Canadians begin to overpower Himawari, start using her hair against her a little bit. She eventually makes a tag into Yamashita, who just comes in and goes full send on Nicole. Nicole then tags in Liza, who also comes in full send. Yamashita is somehow able to fight off both of them, Nicole and Liza, and then Yamashita and Himawari hit some of their double team offense of their own. Interesting to see for a first time pairing here. Yamashita hit a really nice German suplex from the top rope onto Nicole. Himawari then hits an avalanche hair whip and a natural selection for a really close 2 count that was broken up by Liza. They timed that one really closely. Yamashita gets taken out with a stiff lariat from Nicole. Nicole ends up folding Himawari in half with a German suplex and then hits what she calls the Vancouver maneuver for the victory in 12 minutes and 51 seconds. Immediately after this, Nicole Matthews was beckoning Yamashita back into the ring, but the moment that Yamashita re-entered, she ducked out herself, just playing a little bit of mind games before the next day's matchup. Backstage, Nicole and Liza say that this was just a rehearsal for their matchups tomorrow. Yamashita vows revenge tomorrow, while Himawari said that she felt pretty strong today, teaming with Yamashita despite the loss. In the main event of day one, yet another tag team contest, Yuki Arai teamed up with Wakana Uehara to take on Miyu Watanabe and J-Rod, our very first Princess of Princess preview tag for that upcoming match of Arai and J-Rod. Miyu did get a few streamers on her entrance, but it was Arai who, yet again, took home a number of streamers. We got some pretty tense handshakes between J-Rod and Arai to start us out. Arai and Miyu, though, were the first two to get us going. They know each other quite well at this point, neither able to get the upper hand on one another. J-Rod then comes in, easily powers Arai over with some big boots. She falters briefly, which opens up a door for Wakana to tag in, lock in her head scissors submission. J-Rod, though, is just too strong to stay down for long. She battles back with a power slam. Watanabe tags in. Watanabe and Arai have a second go at one another. Arai nearly gets the scorpion lock in. Side note, I kind of wonder if she knows how culturally relevant that move is in Canada as the sharpshooter. Maybe, maybe not. Watanabe, though, is able to roll backwards and reverse that scorpion lock into almost like a calf crusher of sorts. Watanabe then hits her giant swing, tries for a Canadian backbreaker, fitting Canada, but she has to settle for the batting hammer. J-Rod re-enters, begins just manhandling Arai with power slams, spine busters, boots. She levels Arai with a huge chop and then hits a huge vertical suplex. Wakana breaks up the pin, though, tags in, hits a little bit of light offense against J-Rod. That's pretty short-lived. In a really cool spot, J-Rod caught Wakana's back handspring elbow in the corner and just transitioned it into a German suplex. It was really smooth looking. Wakana and Arai then have stereo submissions on Watanabe and J-Rod. J-Rod is able to power out of the banana pillow with a back body drop. She then breaks up the scorpion hold, lariats both Arai and Wakana. Watanabe eliminates Arai with a running power slam. Then J-Rod spears Wakana for the victory in 13 minutes and 5 seconds. Afterwards, J-Rod and Miyu close out the show with J-Rod dubbing their team the Muscle Sisters. Love that name. Backstage, Miyu mentions that at first she thought J-Rod's muscles were scary, but now the two of them are friends because of their muscles. So that's where we get the Muscle Sisters. J-Rod said anyone facing the two of them has absolutely no chance at victory. On the other side of things, Wakana said she feels bad about losing for her team in the main event of the very first Canadian show, but Arai quickly kind of turns the page on it and she says, you know what, let's just look forward to tomorrow and our matchups tomorrow. Let's close out the tour strong. Overall, this was a fun Canadian debut for TJPW. Not really any different than their American shows, but the final 3 matches here were the standouts for me, which I thought was kind of interesting because they all contain overseas talent going up against TJPW talent. But I kind of think that speaks to the ability of wrestlers like your Suzumes, your Yamashtas, Himawari even, Arai, Wakana, people who can fight against foreign opponents and put on very good matches despite any language barriers that might exist. You know, it just, those last 3 matches just really worked for me and was very impressed at the construct of TJPW versus the world, basically. A historic show, if only for it being TJPW's debut in Canada. We didn't have to wait long for the second Canadian show, though, because the very next day, Sunday, April 12th, from that same venue, the Great Canadian Hastings Racecourse and Casino, Vancouver premiered Day 2 went down. This was also live on Wrestle Universe, a little bit longer of a show, about 2 hours, so about standard with a typical TJPW show. Attendance for Day 2, only 352. It's about 50 less than that 400 number, but still a heck of a showing for back-to-back shows for your debut in the country. Sayuri Namba gave some quick opening remarks, and then the Up Up Girls came out to sing Love You More, Labimoto. We opened up with a clash of the 2023 class as the Bumping Gritters, Himawari and Shino Suzuki, took on Toga and Wakana Uehara. Toga and Himawari got a few streamers here. Those were the only 2 in this match. This was a really nice extended look at the next generation. Each of these four got a chance to shine for a little bit. Wakana had the banana pillow in on Shino for a moment, which it kind of felt like the end, but Shino was able to reach the ropes with like her very, very tippy toes. Himawari and Toga had a really nice power exchange. Pleasant surprise to see Himawari show off some of her strength. Himawari had Toga in a half crab in the middle of the ring. Wakana needed to jump in and break it up, but the bumping gritters perform a double team move to eliminate Wakana. Himawari tries to put Toga away, but Toga hits a few strong forearms, but Himawari, able to land the Sunflower Tempest, gets the win in 14 minutes and 40 seconds. Big time win for Himawari and the bumping gritters. These four ladies got nearly 15 minutes in the opener to just go out there and show what they can do. Highly underrated match. For me, this got the crowd off to a really great start. It got the show off to a really great start. The next generation sure is looking pretty bright. The next match, a singles contest, Yuki Kamifuku took on local Canadian wrestler Kristara. Kamiyu got a little bit of streamers today as well. Kristara had Kamiyu scouted pretty early, not a match that Kamiyu was able to coast through by any means. She had to resort to some new tactics, saying that Kristara broke her nail. But, of course, that was just a ruse, just to poke Kristara in the eyes. Kamiyu maybe changes up the tactics, but still our Kamiyu at the end of the day. Kamiyu, I thought, was very witty in this matchup. She was like sarcastically apologizing, saying she's getting tired, telling Kristara, like, come on, let's get it going. Kristara eventually had enough of this, and she started to get pretty aggressive with Kamiyu, which in turn forced Kamiyu to kind of turn her aggression up a notch, and they just started booting the heck out of each other. Kamiyu hits a brainbuster, locks in the octopus stretch, and then Kamiyu hits the Famouser to win in 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Our next match was a tag team contest. On one side, we had Rakupam. On the other, Uda Takami teaming up with Liza Hall. Interesting pairing, Uda and Liza. Uda got a few streamers. Rakupam entered. Raku got a couple of streamers, but the key thing here was that Rakupam entered with a number of Canadian snacks in their arms. Rakupam started off by saying, "Together, eat," and they offered up some of their snacks, but it was all a ruse, of course. It's Rakupam. Pom snuck up behind, tried to roll up Uda and Liza. Uda and Liza surprisingly started working really well together, but they do have a little bit of miscommunication. Liza accidentally lariats Uda, allowing Rakupam to hit the Oyasumi Express. They tried to bribe the official with some chips, and he almost fell for it before he kind of smartened up and was like, no, I can't take a bribe. Liza eventually gets in and has a chop-off with Raku. Liza's more traditional chops, Raku, of course, with the brain chops. Rakupam then go out of the ring, and they get yet another cardboard box, and this one is labeled the 412 Rakupam, which apparently is a bus line. So they had a cardboard bus complete with a vest for Pom, and they end up running over Liza multiple times with this cardboard bus. Back in the ring, Liza is able to dodge a Pom to Justice, briefly locks in a cattle mutilation, and then ends this one with a pile driver to Pom in 10 minutes and 23 seconds. After, Pom is wheeled to the back in their cardboard bus. Up next, we had a singles contest. Miyu Watanabe took on local Canadian wrestler Cherry Blossom. Miyu had a ton of streamers. These two started off fairly 50-50, but Watanabe quickly took over, outpowering and outmatching Cherry Blossom. Cherry Blossom wouldn't give up, though, hitting a 619 and kicking out of a giant swing. That's pretty impressive. She briefly fired up, hitting a tornado DDT and a high kick. The two competitors traded chops before Watanabe dropped Cherry Blossom with a teardrop in 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Color me impressed with Cherry Blossom. This was the very first time I've seen her wrestle. I would love to see more of her in TJPW or really anywhere. I thought she was really impressive. I think she's only been wrestling for a few short years, but she really held her own in there against Miyu Watanabe. A few short backstage comments for this one. Watanabe said that she was happy to face Cherry Blossom, a new opponent who is a Japanese individual but someone living in Canada. Cherry Blossom gave some comments as well, said she was grateful for her TJPW debut, learned a lot being in the ring with Miyu Watanabe. The semi-final for day 2 was a highly anticipated singles contest between Miyu Yamashita and Nicole Matthews. Miyu with a number of streamers here to kick this one off, and we did get some clean handshakes to start after yesterday's extracurriculars. Yamashita with the early advantage as the two kind of felt each other out. Matthews ended up rolling to the apron at one point to take a quick break, but she was actually just playing possum, ended up hanging Miyu up in the ropes and then drawing Miyu out of the ring. Yamashita was able to keep the advantage on, though, with some stiff chops and some kicks. They basically fought outside, like into the front row. Back in the ring, Matthews is able to catch one of Miyu's kicks and start delivering some striking offense of her own. They trade submissions before Nicole comes out on top with a few more kicks. Yamashita catches Matthews on the top rope with a kick, delivers an attitude adjustment, but that's not enough. Matthews rakes the eye. She was kind of towing the line a number of times in this match. She began hitting Miyu with some forearms, who kept challenging her for more and more and more. Yamashita is then able to hit a forearm of her own and a German suplex, but Matthews pops right back up, hits a German suplex from her side. They trade a few final strikes until Miyu hits a reverse skull kick in 13 minutes and 41 seconds to win. After, the two go head-to-head, but they end up shaking hands, bowing to each other, sharing that mutual respect. My play-by-play probably doesn't do it justice, but this was truly one heck of a match. Definitely one to go out of your way to watch and see. It was a lot more than just the simple striking back and forth that I described here, but it was a really well put together match for two of the kind of heavier hitters in the business. Backstage, Yamashita said that she is happy to get the edge over Nicole. She remembers their meeting from a long time ago. Nicole says that Miyu is the best in the world. She was upset that she couldn't get the edge in their head-to-head series. And in the main event for Vancouver Premiere Day 2, we had the ultimate preview tag. On one side, our champions Yuki Arai and Suzume took on our challengers Sakura Hattori and J-Rod. This is our second Princess of Princess preview tag. J-Rod has the 1-0 advantage, although she did not pin Arai. This is also our second International Princess preview tag. Sakura with the 1-0 advantage, although she did not pin Suzume. Interesting pairing between J-Rod and Sakura. Kind of curious how they will work together. All of the women in this match got streamers, which was pretty nice to see. J-Rod and Arai start us out with J-Rod overpowering Yuki Arai fairly easily, kind of beckoning Arai to bring it on. They trade headlocks, leg scissors, then they eventually tag out. Suzume and Sakura have a short-lived high-speed exchange, and then J-Rod comes back in, chops the heck out of Suzume, and then catches Suzume's top rope dive. Sakura comes back in with some strong kicks, but Suzume is able to dodge the Pele kick, bring Arai back in. J-Rod meets her with some intense whips to the corner and a chin lock. We also get a second J-Rod and Suzume exchange, which kind of felt a bit like Rey Mysterio and The Big Show, if I had to describe it. Sakura and J-Rod show off some nice tandem offense as well. I was surprised to see them work together so fluidly. Suzume and Arai begin to turn the tide briefly. Suzume hits a facebuster from the apron all the way to the floor on Sakura. They work their way up to the top rope, and Sakura hits a spider suplex and a kick to the head. Really cool addition to her arsenal, that spider suplex. The fall is broken up by Arai, who is met by J-Rod, and J-Rod delivers a double fall-away slam to both Arai and Suzume on her shoulders. Incredibly impressive display of strength from J-Rod. Sakura manages to hit her Rakataicho for a close near fall. She tries to get that Shinden Fudorio locked in, but Suzume blocks it and connects with a ring a bell for the victory in 14 minutes and 1 second. Afterwards, Arai and Suzume close out the show. They invite everyone out for a commemorative photo with Sayuri Namba rightfully at the center of it. Namba is actually the one who gets in the final word. A huge thank you to her newly hometown crowd in Vancouver, and she does promise that TJPW will return to Canada someday. Backstage, Arai and Suzume celebrate their win. They vow to retain their titles in Las Vegas. J-Rod promises to win in her territory, America, and then Sakura acknowledges the loss, but she claims to now know Suzume even better. So we are all knotted up, one apiece for both our Princess of Princess preview tags and our International Princess preview tags. So that is even as even can get going into Las Vegas. Overall, I have to say, day 2, certainly a better day than day 1 in my personal opinion. Not that day 1 was bad by any means, it's just day 2 just felt like it packed more of a punch, from that opening next-gen tag match to the super preview main event. I think if you only have time for one of the Vancouver shows in a very busy TJPW period, I'd certainly recommend day 2. I am really looking forward to the Las Vegas show tomorrow. We did do a preview of that on last week's show, and like I said, recording this before that show takes place, so unable to kind of chat through the results, but by the time you are listening to this, you will know whether or not our champions have retained. I'm looking forward to seeing all of the matches on here. That 3-way between Yamashita Watanabe and Mizuki is also crazy. We got Alexis Lee here. We got title matches. Like I say, I'll put out that, if you haven't seen it by the time you're listening to this, go to the social channels and you can see my instant reaction, and gonna have a cameo or two in there too, but go check out the instant reaction, and then we will cover the Las Vegas show in much more detail next week. So just bear with me as I get through some of these, kind of the way that the schedule has fallen here, just with how busy I am in Las Vegas. That's not the only show we're going to talk about next week, though. Of course, we're going to talk about that Gaisen show, too. So we got 3 shows next week we're going to talk about. The Gaisen Sakura show, live in Las Vegas. And then this coming weekend, on Saturday, April 18th, we have the latest Inspiration show from Tokyo Square in Itabashi. This is going to be video on demand as well, but it is coming out on Tuesday, April 21st. So we will be able to watch this one and discuss it together on next week's episode. There are only 4 matches here. These inspiration shows are usually only like an hour and change. They're a little bit more of like an appetizer, a taste test of TJPW, a little sampling, if you will, in a amuse-bouche. I don't know if I used that word correctly or not. There are 9 TJPW talents on this, basically the ones that are not in Las Vegas. The 4 matches that we will see include a tag team contest. Haru Kazushiro will team up with Arisu Endo. They will take on really cool pairing of Rika Tatsumi and Shion Kanzaki. Very like punk rock pairing, very like rock band lead singer energy pairing. I wonder if there's something to the 2 of them. Maybe they'll have some chemistry here and we see this team a little bit more. We will also have a singles matchup. Ren Kanatsu will go one-on-one with Mei Suruga. Of course, we know Mei Suruga going to be on that Yes Wonderland show in early May. This will come before that, Mei making her return to TJPW for the first time since Wrestle Princess 6 back in September. We will have another singles contest. Mifu Ishida will be taking on a competitor by the name of Papillon Akemi. This will be Akemi's TJPW debut. This is like an alter ego character of an individual by the name of Konaka, who wrestles in, I don't know the full name of the promotion, the 666 promotion. I think it's like Pro Wrestling Darkness 666, something like that. It is a male competitor. And then there is a tag team contest. Kira Summer will team up with Chika Nanase. Nice to see those 2 teaming together once again. They're going to take on our lovely doppelganger duo of Mihiro Kiryu and Kakeru Sakaguchi. So a shorter show there, but always a fun show these inspiration ones are, and such a bite-sized thing. They're so easy to watch at only like little over an hour. So looking forward to checking out that inspiration show when it releases on the 21st. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking through some graduates and some excursions. Now that we are here, boots on the ground in Las Vegas, some of these matches are starting to come to pass, and it is so exciting. Before we get to that, one graduate update that I want to mention is Yuka Sakazaki. Yuka Sakazaki is participating in the Survival of the Fittest qualifiers on Ring of Honor. I'm not going to spoil this because as you may or may not know, Ring of Honor tapes shows and then releases them maybe like a month or so later. It's a long tape delay. So Yuka Sakazaki did have her qualifier match already. Not going to spoil the result here until it airs on Ring of Honor Honor Club. But just know, Yuka Sakazaki has a chance to join this Survival of the Fittest matchup in Ring of Honor. Nice to see her doing something again in Ring of Honor. It's been quite a while. She obviously had the 2 TJPW bookings, but wasn't doing anything for really the first 3.5 months of the year. On the excursions side of things, before we get to Vegas, I actually want to mention Saturday, April 11th, up in Vancouver, Evil Ueno put on another latest edition of his Mystery Wrestling show. It was Mystery Wrestling 24. This functions kind of like Monday Magic or TJPW New Year, TJPW, NJPW New Year Dash, where we don't know the matches or the competitors or really anything that's going to go down on the show. It was a kooky show straight out of the mind of Evil Ueno, but I'm mentioning it here because we had a surprise ladies match, a 4-way contest on this show, which saw 4 competitors that ended up wrestling later this day at the TJPW show: Nicole Matthews, Alexia Nicole, Amira, and, in a very pleasant surprise, Himawari. It was not all sunshine and rainbows, or should I say sunflower and rainbows, for Himawari, because she was the one to take the pinfall in this matchup, getting pinned by Nicole Matthews. Nonetheless, really cool opportunity for Himawari to get exposed to some new audiences. Really cool to see her. When I tuned in for this, I thought we might get a TJPW wrestler. Certainly didn't expect to see Himawari, so good for Himawari. And then jumping into Las Vegas yesterday, I guess technically, on Wednesday, April 15th, Pandemonium Pro Wrestling, Whatever, Forever took place. Now, I was at this show maybe 8 hours ago now, so it is super fresh in my mind. Heck of a show from top to bottom. It was not live streamed, but it was recorded, so I believe it will come out at a future date. I will let you guys know when those details are released. The 2 matches that I want to just briefly talk about are the ones that have a connection to TJPW. That is Alexis Lee's match. Alexis Lee went one-on-one with Jocelyn Navarro. Alexis Lee did lose to Jocelyn Navarro, but hey, Alexis Lee, an under-the-radar competitor from Southeast Asia, coming over here for WrestleMania weekend. This is not Alexis Lee's only booking. She's got I think 3 or 4 others. Really cool opportunity for her. That alone has to be a win. So the fact that she lost the match, I don't think she's going to be losing any sleep tonight. And the other match I want to talk about features TJPW alumni Natsupoi. Natsupoi went one-on-one with Johnny Robbie in her USA Wrestling debut. Huge for this to happen on this Pandemonium show. One heck of a match. These 2 women laid it into one another. Natsupoi does pick up the victory over Johnny, though. One heck of a match. I can't recommend this one enough when it comes out. I'll also throw an honorable mention to the main event of this show, which was a 3-way matchup. Amira defended her championship against the Kick Demon Janai Kai and Macho Gori-san Saya Ida from Stardom. Just truly an incredible show, this Pandemonium show. It was a blast to be there live. The crowd was great. All of the wrestlers put on a great performance. Wonderful way to get the WrestleMania week started. Now, at the same time that this show went down, there was another show happening called Pottermania. Obviously did not attend that one. Can't be in two places at once, unfortunately. But this one featured another wrestling debut in America. Toga, TJPW's own Toga, made her U.S. debut, teaming up with Jazzy Wang to take on Amira and Lil Mars. Toga and Jazzy Wang did pick up the victory. Now, at the time of recording, I have not seen this matchup yet, just haven't had the time to watch it, but looking forward to it. I did know a few people actually that were in attendance at Pottermania, and they said Toga had a pretty heck of a US debut, so looking forward to checking that one out. And if you're an astute listener, yes, I didn't misspeak. I mentioned Amira twice. Amira did wrestle on the Pottermania show early in the card, and then made her way up to the Pandemonium Pro Wrestling show happening at the same exact time to main event it. That's the kind of craziness that goes down at Mania weekend, so kudos to Amira for having a tag team match at Pottermania, an all-women's show, and then making a 10-20 minute trek north to Pandemonium and defending her title. So she lost that Pottermania show, but she did defend her title at Pandemonium, so ended the night off on a positive. Vegas, of course, just getting started. On Friday the 17th, there are two matches that we get to look forward to. The day that this episode drops, in fact, Bloodsport 15, GCW's Bloodsport, Miyu Yamashita, one-on-one with Janai Kai, the Kick Demon. I would love to see this, but I think I said this last week. Unfortunately, it's at the same exact time as the Stardom show. That's where I'm going to be heading that day. Later on, though, on Friday, Pride Style Pro Wrestling is putting on Out of This World, where there's a special singles contest. Miyu Watanabe taking on Tania. I did go ahead and purchase my tickets for this. I kind of fell victim to it. I was just so interested in seeing this, so I will be at this Pride Style show on Friday evening. And then on Sunday, Spark Joshi Lady Luck 2. Friends of the show here, we are sponsoring, the Tokyo Joshi Pod is sponsoring Spark Joshi Lady Luck 2. Super excited about that. They have Sayuri Namba as their ring announcer. Really looking forward to seeing Sayuri once again. Sayuri also ring announcing the TJPW show, so a little bit of a double dose here of Namba. This Spark Joshi show will also feature TJPW alumni Natsupoi. Alexis Lee is also going to be here, and then Jada Stone is on this show as well, two-time former International Princess challenger. Maki Ito was also announced for this Spark Joshi show. Of course, she would have wrestled on the Stardom show as well. Unfortunately, Maki Ito ran into a little bit of visa issues, so Maki was unable to make the trip on over. A handful of the Stardom wrestlers ran into some similar issues with getting their visas in time. Unfortunate, but we talked about this briefly the other week. Like, this is the world that we live in these days, and these things are bound to happen, and it stinks, and it's not fun for these women who can't make the trip. It's not fun for the spectators, but fortunately it is what it is, and we have to support these ladies and these shows regardless of these unfortunate circumstances. But Spark Joshi going to be an underrated show of the weekend. They have put together quite the card. It is out there on social media, and one that I am really, really looking forward to being there live in person for. That same Sunday, back in Japan, the 19th, DDT is hosting a show, The Gathering of the Eel Brothers. I still don't know who the Eel Brothers are, so if somebody knows who they are, please explain them to me because they seem so interesting. This is Gathering the Eel Brothers in one pond. There's a TJPW match on offer here, probably going to be on the pre-show. Haru Kazushiro will team with Rika Tatsumi to take on Arisu Endo and Ren Kanatsu. And then just announced this week, got in under the wire before I recorded, on Tuesday, May 5th, Marvelous is holding their 10th anniversary show, and this is a doozy because we have Miyu Yamashita Miyu Yamashita has been invited to this Marvelous show. I don't believe that Yamashita has ever wrestled for Marvelous before. I'm going to have to double check that. Miyu Yamashita will go one-on-one with Senka Akatsuki. That's a crazy matchup, man. Yamashita and Akatsuki. I am really looking forward to that. I will be seeing Senka tomorrow, later tonight, on the Marvelous show. There's supposed to be meet and greets, and if there are, you bet I'm going to ask her about this, because this is going to be one heck of a match. And this is just one of the matches on this Marvelous 10th anniversary show. Marvelous is always known to put together a pretty solid card, so definitely one to look forward to there. But with all that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of today's episode of the Tokyo Joshi Pod. It is 1:37 in the morning on Thursday, so I don't think I need some cold spray or some ice packs. I think I just need some sleep. I appreciate you guys bearing with me as I am in a different setup here, yet again in a hotel room in Las Vegas, so appreciate you bearing with me if the audio sounds a little funny. I am already sleep deprived on day one, so if I sound a little bit delirious, if I sound half asleep, if I said something totally cuckoo bananas, bear with me this week. We'll get back to things next week. Speaking of next week, we're going to review Gaisen Sakura Pro Wrestling, Inspiration, and the Las Vegas show. We're also going to preview Next Door in Shinjuku and the Wrestle Universe Members Only show. That's always a fun one. There's always some fun matches on that. Remember to stay tuned to our socials this weekend for all sorts of content from Las Vegas. Super, super excited to be here. I hope you enjoyed the show today. If you did, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any future episodes. You can follow us at Tokyo Joshi Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and X. If you want to email the show, tokyojoshipod@gmail.com. But above all else, remember to keep your hearts burning, stay magical, my friends, and we'll see you next week on the Tokyo Joshi Pod.